Welcome to Chilladelphia Sports Radio. We're on episode 3. We got the Eagles taking on the Giants this week. Some of the lines that have come out for the game. Eagles open as 7.5-point favorites. The total points over under is 48.5. And the one I found surprising right now is Jalen Hurts over under is 243.5 for passing yards. What do you guys think? Do you think Jalen's going to have a big game in the air? Or I honestly think this week is going to be a little more of him showing that run again. I see it coming, that he's going to pull the ball more. I know he said this week he's got a bounty on him going into every game because of that shoulder. People want to take him out. I think he's going to prove something this week. So what do you guys think? What do you think Jalen Hurts is going to do against the Giants here?
I agree with you, dude. I mean, I think they definitely need to utilize him as a rusher, for sure. Because, I mean, last week it didn't really work out with him throwing. I mean, his shoulder is injured, but I 100% agree with you. They need to utilize him as a rusher if they're going to win this game.
Yeah, I would have to disagree, and just because I don't think that we should really be running Jalen coming off of a shoulder injury where he's still kind of banged up. In games that Miles Sanders has ran the ball over 15 times, we're 8-1 in those games, and the game that we lost was a game played when Gardner Minshew was a starter. I think we lean on Miles Sanders a good bit in this game. Boston Scott always plays big against the Giants, but I know that the Giants aren't scared of him. I read that. They're ready for Boston Scott. It has to be, yeah, I can see Jalen maybe getting 10 carries, but smart carries, not where he's putting himself at risk. With Philadelphia this week, there was a lot of training with Hurts, how they have him now going and training him to brace for his falls on impact. So I can see him getting to 10 carries, but at the same time, it has to be a Miles Sanders game. The secondary for the Giants isn't the best. Like, Adoree Jackson's good, decent, but they're not really the best. Xavier McKinney, I like him, but it has to be a throwing game. You got to come out slinging. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, I think what we saw last week when the Eagles played the Giants, it wasn't a playoff game, but the Eagles were playing it like it was a playoff game. They needed to win that to get the 1 seed. But we saw Jalen Hurts. He didn't really look like himself running the ball. When he got out of the pocket, he either threw it away or he slid when a guy came within 5 yards of him. And I think he'll probably do some of that. He might be a little more aggressive, but he's definitely not trying to take any hits. So I could see him being more of a pocket passer this week, and I could see the Eagles handing the ball off more. But yeah, I could see them taking shots down the field to AJ and Devontae. But yeah, I think they'll want to establish the run game for sure with the running backs, and if that doesn't work, then they'll have to rely on Jalen.
See, I'm really thinking that I think Dallas Goedert is really going to have a huge game this week, mainly because I think the Giants are going to mostly focus on Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, which is fine, but it really depends on what kind of coverages they're running. And I think if Jalen Hurts does those checkdowns to Sanders and Scott, that'll help him out if he doesn't have to escape the pocket. And like Ethan said, if he didn't look like himself against the Giants in Week 18. But yeah, if they give the ball to Sanders, Scott, and Goddard, I think they're going to look pretty solid.
Yeah, and coming with the offseason coming up too, Sanders needs to play big, So to give him the ball, because these might be his final games as an Eagle. And like I said before, he's not playing for just Philly right now. He's playing for 31 other teams that can go and pay him that money.
See, I think – go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead, Lori.
All right. I think everything that Cam said, like I agree with for sure, but I think Devontae Smith is going to be the one that has the big game because I think they're going to end up doubling AJ. That leaves Devontae more opportunities to find the holes in that defense and get more passes, you know what I mean? And he's a killer, dude. You know, his past 7 games he's been going off. He hasn't really played that good against the Giants, though. The last 2 games against the Giants, I think he only had like 67 yards. He might have had a touchdown in one of them. And he had like not even 14 receptions total. So I definitely think he has something to prove against that Giants secondary this week, especially given that it's playoffs. And considering what he's been doing the past couple of weeks, besides in this Giants game last week, that he definitely has something to prove.
See, the reason I think Jalen Hurts has a little bit more of a rushing game all depends on 2 things. How close this game is. If this game is a 7-point game, 3-point game, it's playoffs. So it's any given Sunday at this point. Like you win or go home. So Giants are going to throw the kitchen chair at us. They're going to throw the chair. They're going to throw the sink. They're going to throw everything at us. Whatever they have sitting in that back pocket, they will find it and they will put it out on the field. If this game is close, Jalen Hurts is going to take it into his own hands. We've seen it multiple times throughout the season where the offense looks a little bit stagnant, a little slow, and then Jalen Hurts says, screw it. I am taking the rock. I'm running. I'm, throwing darts, but I'm going to take it into my own hands. And this game is going to either be, if I don't perform well, the team loses. If I perform well, then we move on. And I think that's what's going to happen is Jalen's going to become that leader, that guy in Philadelphia that we've been looking for. And I think he's going to be like, all right, time to put this team on my back and, show the world what I got. And I think he's going to try and make a case, to prove to other people like that game against the Giants was a fluke, So
I think Gardner Minshew played a big role in that, though. Like when I said it a couple of weeks ago when Hurts was looking up at the scoreboard, and you could just tell, like, hey, if I was in this game, I would be tearing it up. So I completely agree with you with that. He'll take this into his own hands if they're down, or even if it's a close game. 100%, he'll do what it takes to get the job done.
I think there's 3 aspects of this game 3 critical points that determine if the Eagles make this have it as a close game, a blowout, or they lose it. It's coming down to 3 people, or not 3 people, but 3 groups. First off, it comes down to Jalen Hurts. If he plays like he's played all season, I have no worries then on the offensive side at all. The defensive line, a week ago or 2 weeks ago when we played the Giants, struggled to get to the quarterback. They didn't have any sacks outside of 2 trick plays. So, they didn't really step up. That's something they got to step up against Daniel Jones. The last person, and it all depends on who's starting. If Avonte Maddox is out, whoever is starting in that nickel corner slot, which I believe last week we had as Reed Blankenship instead of Josiah Scott, which I like that better. If he performs well, this game's over. It's a blowout. But if he plays lost, if he plays hesitant, which he hasn't shown that he does that yet, but if he does hesitate, I think you're going to see Saquon out of the backfield on passes a little bit more. You're going to see those short out routes doing some damage. It all comes down to how Reed Blankenship plays that nickel corner slot.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, too, that in order for the Giants to necessarily win this game, that they have to give Saquon the ball a lot. If they want to win this game, they have to tire our front 7 out. Like I said, we sub in a lot on our defensive line, so that helps us a lot. But if you can establish a run against Philly and you're able to take their D line, make them tired. Because I know Graham, he missed practice because he was dealing with an illness or whatnot. Maddox, he didn't participate. He's still not participating in practice because of his toe. Lane Johnson, he was limited. And Linval Joseph, he was limited. Linval is not really that big of an impact for us to miss, but he's a very good run stopper. So having him in the middle of the D-line is crucial, especially with Jordan Davis maybe not being as conditioned because of injury this season and limited snaps. But Daniel Jones, he had a very good week last week, 24-35, 301, 2 tutties. I think he had like 78-2 on the ground. So he's been a running factor now, and I think Philly has to limit him and contain him in that, because Daniel Jones is a very good running quarterback, which now we're seeing, to which might help his case as for an extension. With New York being said, I'm not taking this game lightly at all, because it could be a trap game, 100%. And with Daniel Jones and Saquon, both could possibly be their final game in a Giants uniform. So, I think Daniel Jones has to come out. He can't play a mediocre game. If they lose and it's on the defense, that's one thing. But if this offense comes out dry and they don't make any spark to even put up a fight against Philly's defense, both teams are now healthy. We're healthy enough. We have CJ back too. But I mean, this is the playoffs. Like you said, this is win or go home up until September, August. But it's going to be crucial. Miles Sanders, week 14, he rushed for $144 against them, 2 touchdowns. This is a game that Philly cannot take lightly. They don't have really that many weapons on offense besides Saquon, but that Isaiah Hodgins has played. He played a very big game. He had eight catches, 105 yards. Who was he before this? So, I mean, Bradbury, all-pro. Slay, top-paid corner in the league, top 10 corner at the end, finishing the end of the season. They're going to be shut down. There's no way around it. What Cam said about Goddard having that big game is because, they're going to be tied in on Brown and Devontae. So, with a guy like Jalen Smith as their starting linebacker, who's going to be necessarily covered in Goddard, we read about him. The reason he didn't pan out in Dallas was because out of Notre Dame he tore his ACL 2 times, so he lost a step with speed and covering. He's not able to get field to field, sideline to sideline as quick as he once was in college. That could be a big advantage we have to take care of. Landon Collins, he drops down now. He plays in his normal safety role. He's more of a hybrid linebacker. So if they want it, the only way I can see Goddard getting stopped is if they bring Xavier McKinney down to cover him, because Landon Collins isn't a pass covering linebacker hybrid. He's more of that run stopper.
Talking about run stoppers, what do you think about Philly not rushing up the middle as much, man? Because I think this game you'd have to rush up the middle to stop Saquon in this game. He's too elusive. You can't chance it. He could go off for 200 yards. You know what I mean? He's a gifted running back, and in order to stop him, you need to rush up the middle. I think Hassan Reddick's going to torture Daniel Jones.
Well, I think there's if the first time we played the Giants, Saquon could not run at all. He couldn't find a rushing lane. That's why the game was such a blowout. So each team has shown how to beat each other. We haven't shown it to each other, but we've shown it to the rest of the world. The way to beat the Philadelphia Eagles: create turnovers, don't turn over the ball, and control time of possession. Those are the 3 keys. If you want to beat the Philadelphia Eagles, you got to control those 3 things. Mm-hmm. Now, on the flip side, if you want to beat the New York Giants, I think it's a really easy layout for us. You jump out to a big lead. They have not been able to overcome that this year at all. If they are down double digits late, like third quarter, stuff like that.